Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel and my kitchen. My name's Amber. I've been sharing my health journey and I have been on an anti-inflammatory diet just a little over a week and I am already feeling quite a bit better. I am taking some medicine too, so I'm sure that's helping, but let's keep it going. Let's meal prep again, because having food already ready in the fridge that you know is delicious, that you know is gonna make you feel good in your body as well, you can't beat it. So today is a little bit different because we're only gonna be in town for another day and a half, and then we are running off out of town. So I'm gonna make some stuff that can travel well. I'm gonna make some banana bread protein bars for breakfast. We're gonna pair that with hard-boiled eggs. Let me show you. Feel free to bake your own. I ended up buying mine because I'm already making a ton of my own food, and it felt worth it to not just to pay $4 to not have to crack and peel eggs. So, you know, I'm pairing this with the banana protein bread just for that extra bit of fat and protein. We're also gonna have some fruit with that. I'm gonna put an orange with it because I've been digging oranges lately. My whole life, I've wanted to love oranges and now I finally do. So that's just, you know, confirmation. Keep trying foods because your taste buds change. So that's our breakfast option. Those banana bread protein bars, whatever, they freeze well. So if I have a bunch left over, I can freeze them. But I'm also planning on taking them with me. We're gonna take a cooler. We're going to a bachelor's house, and literally the last time we went, the only thing that was there was like instant oatmeal, like in the packet. I'm not kidding when I say that and condiments were the only food in the whole house. So we're taking plenty of snacks and foods because we want to be prepared. To go along with those delicious travel breakfasts, I'm also gonna be making my own granola bars. These recipes are linked down below, of course. Now I will say I also put down energy balls down there because the granola calls for this puffed rice cereal. I found this at Whole Foods, but if you can't find this, it is different than Rice Krispies. You can use Rice Krispies, but it's gonna have extra sugar and stuff like that. So if you can't find this, I would switch to energy balls and call it done and not have to worry about it. They have like peanut butter oats and a whole bunch of deliciousness. So either way, you're gonna be set for your snacks. Also bought some hummus, so I'm gonna prep some carrots. I'm not loving baby carrots. They're just tasting dirty to me for some reason. So I'm gonna prep some larger carrots, cut them down to stick sizes. If you wanna see how I keep those in the fridge, stay tuned. Other travel snacks. I feel like oranges, again, are like the most travel friendly because they don't bruise up and you can have them cold or room temperature. They taste delicious every way you want them. So we're taking that whole bag of oranges with us. I'm also taking with me pistachios and almonds because, well, first, they're delicious and they have fiber, protein, and fat all in these little nature-made delicious snacks. So plenty of nuts to go. Another snack I'm taking are these hippies. I love these. If you need to be gluten and dairy free, these are a really good snack option. They have 3 grams of fiber and 4 grams of protein in a serving, and they taste delicious. So my goal definitely isn't to just substitute one box food for the next, but we all know that you gotta be realistic here, and we all need a little prepackaged food in our life to make it easier and more sustainable. The other friend we're gonna go see has celiac disease, so she's gluten-free as well. So I'm gonna be making another batch of those chocolate chip cookies from the last meal prep because they were delicious and I think she'll really enjoy them. But I'm not gonna show you that because you already have the recipe, but that will be coming as well. Now, avoiding alcohol in social situations can be a bit tricky. So I like to have something in my hand at all time that is a flavored deliciousness. So let me show you the drinks that I'm bringing to avoid alcohol. So since we're gonna be there 2 days, I'm bringing 2 drinks per day. I'm gonna start with an Olipop. I haven't had this flavor yet, but I'm looking forward to it. This in a glass you'd put a margarita or an old fashioned in with one of those big ice cubes. You look like you're drinking a cocktail. It feels luxurious. So big fan of at least the orange one I've tried and loved it. So hopefully this one's good too. I also love drinking kombucha. Can you see it? I also love drinking kombucha out of a wine glass. I also think drinking out of a wine glass makes it a little bit less awkward for the people that you're with. If they want to drink, sometimes it can feel weird drinking in front of someone who isn't drinking. So with me having a wine glass, I think it makes them feel a little bit more relaxed as well. So this is the blueberry ginger. Ginger's great for inflammation, so I'll be living my best life here. And then the other 2 drinks, that orange Olipop. It's so good. I don't know what they put in this stuff. I mean, I do because it's right here on the label. But it's delicious. It's like the most mellow but refreshing orange cream soda. And I cannot wait to have this again. There was a cocktail that I had in Broken Bow that was like a citrus vanilla bourbon smash. And this tastes so similar to that. So it feels, again, put it in that old-fashioned glass with that big old ice cube. I'm gonna feel like I'm having a cocktail right along with all my friends. And then I also really like the peach Bellini kombucha. So again, in a wine glass, and I'm good to go. You know, the real benefit here is we're gonna be playing games, and I'm gonna be the only one sober. So victory will be mine. And if not, that's just kind of sad. So we have breakfast, we have snacks, we have mocktails. And I'll also be making 2 different dinners. There is a Tuscan chicken pasta that is so freaking good. We turned it into a pasta, but you can put it on anything, cauliflower rice, regular rice, mashed potatoes, whatever you want, you can have it on. I substituted heavy cream and Parmesan for coconut cream and nutritional yeast, and it was absolutely delicious. My husband and daughter even ate it. Like, well, my husband eats everything, but my daughter, that's tricky. So a 10-year-old said, this is delicious. Do you need any further proof that you need to try this recipe? I think not. And then the last one is going to be a slow cooker chicken enchilada casserole. My daughter has a program at school, so while she's doing her thing and we're watching, the slow cooker will be back here doing all the hard work. So stay tuned. Let's get right to those recipes. Since I need my immersion blender, I'm going to start close to an outlet, and I'm just going to break apart 2 bananas and put them to this bowl and smash them with a fork. Once they really look like baby food and you've gotten most of the larger chunks out, I'm going to go in with the immersion blender and make them super, super smooth. This really does help with the consistency of the batter. I'm telling you, this bread is good, so you're going to want to give it a try. Now we're going to add in 2 eggs. I like to break the yolk before mixing it in. I just think it makes it easier, or else we'll just be chasing those yolks around the bowl. Now I'm going to spray my little measuring spoon so that my honey doesn't stick. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of honey, or whatever sweetener you like. Maple syrup would work as well. Now we're going to add a little bit of oil. You can use coconut oil if you want to melt it. I didn't feel like melting any coconut oil, so I'm using 1 tablespoon of avocado oil. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla and mix it really well. The spatula helps because the honey wants to settle on the bottom, so that spatula was able to really scrape up that honey and get it incorporated really well. Now we're going to move on to the dry ingredients. I have 2 cups of almond flour in with 1 teaspoon of baking soda and then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And then I like to grate the nutmeg myself. I just prefer it. If you want to use already grated nutmeg, go for it. Now I'm going to add in 1 serving of collagen peptides. This is 2 scoops for the kind I use. And then just stir this to make sure that baking soda and everything's mixed through. Now we're going to add this to our wet ingredients and give it another stir. The great thing about using gluten-free ingredients is you don't have to worry about over mixing your batter. The gluten being developed while you're over mixing is what causes toughness in your cakes and cookies and stuff. So with us doing gluten-free, we don't have to worry about it. I'm going to spray this with a little bit of coconut oil and pour in all that delicious batter into this 8x8 baking dish. And I want to add a few toppings. Now I had pecans that I had to chop up for something I did earlier. So I'm just going to kind of pour out a few of those pecans. I realized that bowl was dirty from my eggs, so I said, heck with that. And so I just broke a few up with my hands. And then I also had almond slices already on hand, so I decided to use that as well. I love nuts, so adding nuts on top, I feel like it just looks prettier whenever you add stuff to the top. Now make sure to press these in. I forgot to push them into the batter, so they did kind of fall off a little bit. Now you're going to bake these at 350. Mine baked for 25 minutes. The smell is divine. Now you really want to wait for these to cool completely before you start cutting them. Mine were still slightly warm, which is why they're falling apart a bit, but we just could not wait anymore. After smelling them while we were cooking dinner, it was too much. So yeah, we needed a little taste, and we did not regret it at all. Oh my gosh. Seriously, make these. I would not know that this was gluten and dairy free. It just tastes like a delicious banana bread. I bet you could actually make these into muffins too. 10 out of 10. Feel free to add whatever you love. So if you want to add chocolate chips or coconut, it is so versatile. This is a great base to start from, and make sure you play with your food. These are also pretty great on macros. They are only 159 calories and 6 grams of protein. Now onto our granola bars. These are better than store-bought, I am telling you. We're gonna start off with 2 cups of quick oats. Do not use old-fashioned oats. 1 cup of that puff rice I was talking about that's kind of tricky to find. And then we need to chop up some pecans. You want all of your pieces to be bite-sized or like really, really small so that they can be packed down and condensed. So we're gonna need a half a cup of whatever nuts you like. I use pecans. Now we need some chocolate chips. I normally use this Lily's that's sweetened with stevia, but I had a few of these sugar-free from Kroger's I just wanted to kind of get rid of, so I used a little combo. The Lily's were so much easier to chop than the Kroger one, just for future reference. If you can find mini chocolate chips that are Lily's, then you won't even have to do the chopping. But of course, I could not find those. Now we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of flaxseed and about 1/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt. I'm just eyeballing it here. Give it a good mix and make sure everything is incorporated. Now we're gonna put these to the side and start on our wet ingredients. Make sure to spray your measuring cup before adding the honey. This is half a cup of honey, 1/3 cup of almond butter. You can also use peanut butter or sunflower seed butter, and then a 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. We're also gonna add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Give this a good stir. It can be a little bit tricky really incorporating the almond butter and honey together, so just be patient. I like to start with tiny circles in the middle, going outward and then folding, and then starting back in the middle. You'll see it gets you really, really smooth consistency. Now we're gonna pour this wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and put your patient pants on, because you need to make sure that every little bitty piece of puff rice and oats have a tiny bit of that delicious honey goodness on them. You want them to be sticky. If you stir it and you see a tiny dry patch, keep stirring. You need it all well incorporated. This took about 2 minutes, so not too bad. I'm telling you, better than store-bought. I like to use these pre-cut parchment papers. If you bake a lot, this will save your life. So put it down and then put your 8x8 baking dish on top, and you just want to finish out the lines of your baking dish and then cut those little rectangles out. This is the easiest way to make sure the super sticky mixture comes out, because now you have little handles to pull it out once it's ready. Now you're gonna push in all this granola. I did it in a couple layers, pushing as I go. Once I couldn't get it pushed down anymore with my spatula, I put some saran wrap on top and then pushed down really hard with my hands. If you have any like air bubbles or gaps, they're gonna break apart. So you really wanna make sure this is really, really, really condensed. Now you're gonna bake these in the oven at 325 for 20 to 25 minutes. Mine took about 20 minutes. You'll know that they're ready when the outside is a little bit golden brown like this. Let it cool. This is the hardest part, y'all. Letting it cool and then putting it in the fridge for at least an hour. I ended up putting mine in overnight, so the next day I pulled it out. It might be a little tricky at first just to kind of pry it out, but you see those little handlebars really, really helped. Now we're gonna cut this into 12 pieces. So cut it in half, and then each half needs to be 6 pieces. So what I like to do is then cut it in half again, and then I know each of those get to be 3 pieces. That way it's just easier to eyeball equal portions. And anything that falls off, y'all, like that's your reward. You get to eat that little morsel. Yeah, that's why we're cutting these. Like, you want to be the ones to cut these to get those. They're delicious. Now you can wrap these in saran wrap or keep them in an airtight container or a Ziploc bag and put them back in the dish you baked them in. I'm going to use these 4x6 little bags I got off of Amazon. I used to bake cookies and all that, so I used to use these for cookies. I already had them. You pull off the little sticker and then they stick to themselves. I'm putting 2 bars into each one, but you can just do one if you'd like, if you want to send them off to your kid for school. They are resealable, so they can just pull them off because it's just a sticker, which is really, really cool. So I'll show you that here in a second. I just loaded up 2 per little packet because we are going to be traveling with these. I decided to add another one in here, so I just pulled it up, added one, and folded it back, and it sticks to itself. These are a delicious and satisfying snack. And speaking of snacks, let's prepare our carrots for the hummus. I washed these really, really well with this vegetable scrubber that I have. One side's soft, one side's rough, so it's easy to scrub fruits or vegetables. I cut the tops and bottoms off, and then just make sure that if I cut this in half, it'll fit in my mason jar. Then each half I cut into half and then half again. So I get 4 little sticks from the bottom of the carrot, and the top of carrot I cut in half and then cut into thirds since it's much larger. This just keeps the sticks a little bit more uniform, a little bit easier to eat. Getting this mason jar completely full. It took about 2 carrots per mason jar. I prepared 2 mason jars, so I'll be ready to go with all my carrots. These will keep in the fridge for a couple weeks as long as you replace the water every like 3 to 5 days. So just remember to do that. I'll just do it whenever I pull them out to have a snack. You know, seeing it, having it out, it's a good reminder to like, hey, I need to change this water. And then again, I just chop that top half into 3 pieces. Fill this up completely with water. You don't want any of the carrot without water. And then put the lid on. You're ready for hummus. It's time to make Tuscan chicken pasta with a side salad. We're gonna start off by seasoning our chicken really well with salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning, just measuring with your heart. Then we're gonna flip these over and season the other side. Meanwhile, I have 2 tablespoons of oil heating up on the stovetop. You want your oil nice and hot when your chicken goes in. We're gonna sear these about 3 to 4 minutes per side. I also have my oven on 350 just in case they aren't done. Sometimes the outside starts cooking faster than the inside, so I'll just pop it in the oven for a couple minutes if that happens. Now we're gonna dice up half of an onion and then get 4 garlic cloves ready. I ended up adding 2 more for the dressing. We're just gonna smash them with the side of our knife and then peel off those outer skins. I'm gonna press these, but feel free to dice or mince by hand if you'd like. Those are those extras for the dressing. You might as well do it all at once. Now flipping them over, and they did need to go into the oven, so I flipped them for another 3 minutes. The outside was cooking a little too fast, so I popped them in the oven for 3 minutes, and then they were cooked perfectly. You can pound out your chicken thinner so that this doesn't happen, and with the 3-minute sear, it's all cooked through. Now we're gonna prep our sun-dried tomatoes. This brand was recommended in the recipe that is linked below. We're gonna slice these up and put them in this 1/2 cup measuring for later. You can slice, you can dice, however you want them. They're delicious. This is an olive oil, so I'm gonna use that olive oil here in a minute, so I'm not putting them away. Now I'm gonna really, really thinly slice some red onion and cut some Kalamata olives for my salad. I love olives in my salad. Well, black olives, not green olives. Like, don't get it twisted. These do have pits in them, so I'm just cutting them around like I would do an avocado and pulling out the pit. And then I'm cutting each half into 4s. And then just pushing these aside until I'm ready for my salad. Now we're gonna make our dressing. I'm using avocado oil. You can also use extra virgin olive oil. This is the time to use extra virgin olive oil when it's not getting cooked. So I have 6 tablespoons of that. Juice of 1 lemon, some apple cider vinegar. Look at those hands working. That gluten-free, dairy-free diet must be working. Then we're gonna press our garlic cloves. I had 2 big ones, but I love garlic, so if you don't love garlic and you have a big one, just use 1. This is even better like the next day once it's all sat. It's really good. And that's 1 teaspoon of oregano and 1 teaspoon of honey. And yeah, I forgot to spray my thing for the honey. So I'm gonna use this spoon to stir to help get the honey off. And that was just a little salt at the end. And now I'm gonna do a little shaky shake just to get it all emulsified and then put it to the side. Now I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon of that olive oil from the tomatoes and then cook my onion in it. We're gonna cook these about 4 minutes just until they are translucent and tender. Sometimes your onions will sweat enough where it will deglaze the bottom of your pan. If that doesn't happen, like it didn't for me, just add a little bit of water to deglaze where you're really scraping up those bits. The water will evaporate really, really quickly. So just cook it for another couple minutes. This will also help tenderize your onions a little faster. Now that our pan's deglazed and our onions are nice and tender, we're gonna add in our sun-dried tomatoes. Just stir those in for about 30 seconds and then press in your garlic. And then stir that around for 30 seconds to a minute until it's nice and fragrant. Now we're gonna get ready our coconut cream. Do not mistake that for coconut milk. They are different. If you are not dairy-free, you can use the heavy cream. The recipe that I have linked tells you how to do both. So I'm doing a whole can of coconut cream to keep it dairy-free. And we really want those solids to melt in and stir them in. And then I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. You can do 1 to 2 tablespoons depending on how much you like nutritional yeast. I might go up next time because I really, really liked it. If you aren't using dairy-free stuff, you can use Parmesan. I'm gonna let that simmer for just a minute, and then I'm gonna add my 2 cups of spinach. I'm not even chopping them, I'm just putting them in whole, and then letting them cook just long enough to wilt down. Then I'm turning the heat all the way down to low and letting it simmer, adding just a little bit of sea salt because I'm out of my kosher salt. Now you can put the chicken back in here whole if you would like, but I want to turn mine into a pasta, so I am slicing mine into bite-sized pieces. This chicken is delicious. Highly recommend that you try. Even if you don't put it in this pasta, the chicken's really good. Now that my chicken's sliced up, in it goes, stir it together. Now you can serve it over cauliflower rice, regular rice, mashed potatoes, whatever you like. I chose to mix mine in with banza pasta. I love the chickpea pasta because it has a lot of protein and fiber, and it's pasta, so can't go wrong with that. So the creamy Tuscan chicken is 450 calories if you want to serve it with something else. Like I said, we went pasta route and we were not disappointed, so we'll probably keep going pasta route. But I did put them in separately in my Fitness Pal so that if I ever want to put it over something else, I have the option. I have a lot of calories left for the day, so I'm choosing to add some gluten-free rolls. You do you. I'm making the side salad now. I'm using a spring baby mix, adding in my Kalamata olives and my red onions, and then some sunflower seeds. This is a great way, like if you miss croutons, this gives you the crunch and the salt of like a crouton, and I love it. And then I'm adding in that dressing. Now, a little bit goes a long way, so add less than you think and then toss it and see where you're at. Because I think 1 tablespoon for a 1.5 cups of lettuce is right where you need to be. Look at this delicious dinner. It was so amazing. I can't wait to have this again. I hope you enjoy it. Now another delicious dinner option, the slow cooker chicken enchilada casserole. I'm starting off with 2 chicken breasts that I seasoned with salt and pepper, and then adding 1 cup of quinoa that has been rinsed really well. And then I'm adding 1.5 cups of chicken broth. I'm adding just a little extra than the recipe calls for because my enchilada sauce is a little smaller than what they call for. I'm also adding the whole can of black beans instead of just a cup because that's one of those things I'm supposed to be getting more of. And it recommended topping with Roma tomatoes. I don't like raw tomatoes, but I do like cooked tomatoes. So I'm adding 2 Roma tomatoes to mine and adding the couple tablespoons of cilantro in there. I doubled up my seasoning, so a whole teaspoon of chili and a whole teaspoon of cumin. Also add a little bit of garlic and onion powder just to taste. 1/2 cup of frozen corn there and 4 ounces of these greened diced chilies. And this is the enchilada sauce that I chose to go with because it is certified gluten-free, just to be safe. And the normal enchilada is 10 ounces. This is 8 ounces, which is why I added those 2 extra ounces of chicken broth. But if you're just doing a normal can of 10-ounce enchilada sauce, feel free to do the 1 1/4 of the chicken broth. The recipe is down below, so you don't have to remember all this. Now we're gonna stir this all together, and that's it. Like, that's the hardest part. It took me about 10 minutes to prep all these things. While I was cutting up that cilantro, I went ahead and cut more for whenever I'm serving it, and ta-da. Now I am using my Instant Pot as a slow cooker, so I'm gonna put that lid on. And then this goes on low for 4 to 6 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it for 6 hours, but I'll check it around 4 and put it on low. Now, if you're using your Instant Pot as a slow cooker, make sure you have it to venting. You don't want this on sealing if you're using it as a slow cooker. About 4.5 hours later, I checked it and voila, it was done. So I scraped off a little bit of that quinoa to take those chicken breasts out so I can shred them with some forks. And that quinoa absorbed all of the liquid, but I do want to give it a good stir because there are definitely patches of just plain looking quinoa and some that looks like they had the enchilada sauce on them. So stir it up now while the chicken's out, and then shred that chicken and add it back in and give it another stir. I would recommend using a nice sturdy spoon, like a good wooden spoon, because my little plastic guy just kept bending instead of stirring, and it did make it a little bit more complicated than it needed to be. So use a sturdy spoon. Once this is all mixed really well together, I'm just going to kind of flatten out the top of this so that I can add cheese to half of it. I am dairy free now, but my husband and daughter still eat dairy, so I wanted to make sure their side still had some cheese while leaving my side plain. You're gonna put that lid back on for 5 to 10 minutes just to get that cheese nice and melty. Now the recipe calls for a certain amount of cheeses. I just went with a Mexican cheese and called it done, and it was delicious like that. So if you want to save yourself some trouble, there's that extra cilantro cut up, and then I also want to top this off with avocado. I do not know what the heck I have to do to get a deliciously beautiful and only green avocado. I picked these out yesterday, and they were still like kind of hard yesterday because I did not want them to go bad after one day. Yet here they are with these bruises and everything on them. So what the heck? They tasted good anyway. I like to score these while they're in their little shells and then scoop them out into a bowl to have little cubes. But feel free to do it however you want. I was like kind of removing those brown spots as I found them. And then I used 1/4 of an avocado on top of mine. And that's how it is in the recipe or in the macros. Because I don't want my avocado to go brown, I added a little bit of lime juice. I only had 1 lime, and I wanted to use that for actually squeezing on the meal. So I added the bottled lime juice to my avocado and a little bit of salt just because it never hurts. And then cut up my little limes into 4ths so I can use them to serve with. And then here we go. Here's mine without the cheese and my husband's with the cheese. He likes cilantro, so he gets cilantro on his. We both get a healthy little amount of avocado. And then I like to, again, serve it with the lime so that you can squeeze the lime on it if you'd like. This was delicious. We will definitely be adding this to the list. I'm so excited about these recipes I've been doing over the last couple weeks. I personally find recipes with a lot of healthy fats just more filling and more satisfying. We're all different, so you have to find what works for you. But I have really found something that I am enjoying, which makes me so happy. Now, this dish is not a looker, okay? But don't judge a book by its cover because she is delicious. And because I didn't add cheese, it's quite a light dish. So I can add dessert later or just keep a light dinner. I'm going to pack up my banana bread bars. I'm keeping 4 of them in this container so I can throw them in the cooler as we run out of town. But I'm going to go ahead and prep a breakfast for me and my husband for the next day. So I have 1 of those banana bread bars in my container already. I'm going to add 1 hard-boiled egg to each container. These are the ones I bought in advance or pre-done, so I didn't have to worry about deshelling that egg. And this might keep happening, honestly. Now to that, I'm going to add the everything but the bagel seasoning just because that's what I like on my hard-boiled eggs. But feel free to add whatever kind of seasoning you like. There are no wrong answers. Now I'm going to cut up my orange, cutting the top and bottom off first and then cutting it into segments. I saw Pick Up Limes. She's a YouTuber, like a vegan or a vegetarian YouTuber. I can't remember. But this is how she served her orange, and it's genius because then you don't get that bitter pith on the outside of your orange, which I hate, and which is why I never ate oranges before. So this is a great way to avoid that, and even my daughter will eat an orange now. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in both of my containers and seal them up. This breakfast is quite light. It comes to about 300 calories, but once I add my collagen to my coffee, this will end up being about 25 grams of protein, which is awesome. Let's do a little recap. We have these delicious granola bars. Again, wrapping them individually really helps just with portioning, but also since my friend has celiac disease that we're gonna go see, this keeps gluten fingers off of her gluten-free goodies because she can have cross-contamination really easily. Now this is not airtight, so I wanna keep this also in an airtight container to keep them as fresh as possible, plus that banana bread. Yum. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.